Selamat datang di Jakarta Content Week Sinergi Asia Tenggara yang diselenggarakan oleh Yayasan 17.000 Pulau Imaji dengan dukungan Direktorat Jenderal Kebudayaan, Kementerian Pendidikan, Kebudayaan, Riset dan Teknologi Republik Indonesia, serta Lembaga Pengelola Dana Pendidikan LPDP melalui Program Pemanfaatan Hasil Kelola Dana Abadi Kebudayaan. Welcome to Jakarta Content Week, Southeast Asia Synergy, the 17,000 Islands of Imagination Foundation in collaboration with the Directorate General of Culture, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology of Indonesia, and the Education Fund Management Institution, LPDP, through the Cultural Endowment Fund Utilization Program proudly present Road to Jakarta Content Week, Southeast Asia Synergy. This event aimed to bridge the literary worlds of Southeast Asian countries, overcoming challenges such as language difference, geopolitical barriers, and the lack of previous initiative to connect our diverse literary communities. Additionally, it will be beneficial if the works of Southeast Asian writers could be more recognized in their own region compared to works from other parts of the world. In a moment, we will start the what efforts can be made to connect cities, festivals, and literary movements in Southeast Asia. Session, I will call our moderator who will guide today's session, Laura Prinsloo. Laura is the chair of the 17,000 Islands of Imagination Foundation, is a non-profit organization working to improve the quality of literary and creative content in Indonesia. The foundation also organized the Jakarta Content Week, JAC10, a festival in the right trade and IP marketplace for the Asia Pacific region together with the Frankfurt Book Fair. She is also the focal point for Jakarta as UNESCO City of Literature. From 2016 to 2019, Laura chaired the Indonesian National Book Committee. Then from 2019 to 2020, she served as the executive chair for Jakarta Book City Committee. For Laura Prinsloo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ketua Kelas. Selamat siang semuanya. Apa kabarnya? Sudah makan siang? Ini akan dalam bahasa Inggris, tapi jika nanti ada pertanyaan atau apa bisa pakai bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris, dipersilahkan. Hi, I'm Laura Prinsloo. I'm trying to read this. I'm very excited to be here at JAC10. So for the next 2 hours, I will be moderating what efforts can be made to connect cities, festivals, and literary movements in Southeast Asia with Aan Mansur, Anton Kurnia, Pauline Van, and William Van. So before we begin the session, I will introduce each speaker. But before that, I would like to describe what the session is all about. The designation of Jakarta as one of UNESCO Cities of Literature in 2021 continued the growing awareness of building city-based literature in Southeast Asia. Previously, Kuala Lumpur was awarded the World Book Capital title by UNESCO, and at the same time, Ho Chi Minh, Penang, Bangkok, and Manila also strive to become literacy-friendly cities by hosting various agendas and literary festivals. Learn how these cities, designated as literary centers, are collaborating to build a vibrant regional literary movement with global impact. So next to me, we have excellent range of speakers that could contribute to this topic. First of all, William Van is the Executive Director of the Singapore Book Council, dedicated to promoting Singapore literature and writers. He has extensive experience in journalism, arts policy, and film curation. William has also lectured on arts management and film. And next to William is Pauline Van, is a writer, literary translator, and curator. She is the creative director of Pusaka and an adjunct professor at University Putra Malaysia. Former director of the Georgetown Literary Festival from 2019 to 2023. She is now curating a new literary event in Kuala Lumpur. Her translations include works by Kule Grassi and German poets Rainer Maria Rilke and Paul Celan. Next to Pauline is Anton Kurnia, a dear friend. He is a writer, literary translator, and freelance editor with over 15 published books. He has extensive experience in the publishing industry and serves as the chair of the Literature Committee at the Jakarta Arts Council and the director of the Jakarta International Literary Festival. Oh. Well, the next one you need to applause to as well. Next to Anton is Aan Mansur, is an acclaimed writer and photography enthusiast, known for his works Melihat Api Bekerja and Tidak Ada New York Hari Ini. In 2021, he won the prestigious Kusala Sastra Katulistiwa with Mengapa Luka Tidak Memaafkan Pisau. Currently, he also works as the director of the Makassar International Writers Festival, promoting literary culture and nurturing emerging talents. Well, give a big round of applause to all our speakers. Okay, so before we start, let's get to know each one of them individually and the work that they've done, the literary festival that they've worked on, and we start with you, William.
Thank you. Selamat siang. Hi, I'm William from the Singapore Book Council. So I have a brief deck to share with the audience. So perhaps, okay. The Book Council actually is a non-profit charity based in Singapore, and we were set up in 1968, so we've been around for a long time. And the main mission really is to support and develop and advocate for a multicultural, multilingual Singapore literature and support our writers writing in the different languages. So we have 4 official languages in Singapore, English, Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. So we support the writers and translators in terms of their development, in terms of their craft, writing in the different genres in the different languages, from poetry to fiction to creative non-fiction, comics, graphic novels, as well as translations as well. So one of our signature events is actually the Asian Festival of Children's Content, or AFCC. But what I do is I would show a short clip from this year's festival, some highlights from this year's festival. Then I'll talk a bit about AFCC. So perhaps we can show the video first.
So many stories to be told, right? In the Southeast Asia, we need more books.
AFCC is really a very great platform, kind of like bring children's content lovers and creators together.
This is my first time at AFCC. Such a great opportunity to be able to meet all these different people, from all over the world, and especially in Southeast Asia. It's sometimes quite difficult to meet people who are interested in this kind of thing, especially children's content and picture books.
Celebration of that relationship.
Anything is possible. So that's what we're trying to do with these picture books. You don't let the child in you die.
I really love being here in such a supportive community. of Asians, and that's something that I'm not used to, and I just find it so inspiring to be among all these creators.
AFCC is a good opportunity for like-minded people to gather and understand more about children literature. We have speakers coming in from many countries, so we get to hear from them and learn new knowledge about children literature.
We get to learn about each other's, what we do and how we can help each other to improve the conditions of publishing here.
I think AFCC is hugely important because it allows creatives from all over Asia Pacific and the world really to converge in Singapore and share stories and our love for children's books with the Singapore public and also hold workshops and really celebrate everything children's books represent.
So that is the video highlight from this year's AFCC. So it ran end of May for 4 days at the National Library, and this year's theme was Curiosity. So AFCC was set up back in 2010, and it's been running for about 15 years. So the reason why we set up AFCC is because we realized a lot of our children from this part of the world, they grew up reading books, from the West, they're more familiar with writers and books from the West. So we thought that there really is a huge gap in terms of promoting and advocating for books by children's book writers, illustrators, and translators from Southeast Asia, from Asia. So that was the main impetus of setting up AFCC, right? So there are, I don't know whether you can see this, but there are 4 main components. I'll just go through very briefly, then I'll talk a bit about how we work with Southeast Asian writers and also our country partners in the region. So the main 4 components, first is the conference. So this conference basically comprises panel discussions, workshops, like at JAP10, masterclasses, and lectures, right? And then we also have a book fair, which is a public-facing component of it. So we have publishers setting up their booths, selling their books. We also have book launches, free events for children and their parents. And so that's the public programs component. And we also have a country of focus component. So that is our main platform of engaging with our partners from Southeast Asia, from Asia. I'll go into that in a bit more, right? So for the conference, just very briefly, there are 3 main program tracks that cater to different stakeholders, different participants. So we have writers, illustrators, teachers, and parents, as well as cross-platform. So for writers, illustrators, that consists mainly of workshops, talks, that cater to writers and illustrators to talk about craft, storytelling in Southeast Asia, different forms of storytelling. But we also tackle different issues like climate, environment, accessibility, and inclusivity in books, as well as talking about difficult topics like death and war. Right? For teachers and parents, so those programs cater more to educators from preschool level to primary school levels. So the programs focus a bit more on literacy, on teaching them the joy of reading, the joy of writing, right? And cross-platform focuses on adaptations, looking at how books and content of books are adapted across different medium, from animation to web novels to stage plays, right? Okay, and 2 key components of AFCC also include the translation forum as well as publishing forum. So one of our main thrusts at SBC is to promote literary translation across the different languages across different genres. So at the forum, we gather translators, literary translators from Southeast Asia, from Asia, to talk about all issues related to translation, right? And also how to, in a way, rectify this imbalance in terms of translation, the power dynamics of translations, because still English is, a dominant power, but we also at the forum, we also want to talk about how do we reclaim that for languages from Southeast Asia and Asia as well. So at Publishing Forum, so we talk about everything that's related to distribution, to how to get books from Southeast Asia distributed and available in our respective countries. And obviously also one of the relevant topics right now, how to deal with AI and IP as well, right? Okay, so the book fair, so as we all know, book fair, where we sell books, and we also have public events like storytelling, illustration workshops that cater more to parents and the kids. Okay, and we also have a strong component on exhibitions. Obviously, when it comes to picture books, illustrators are very, very important. So we have an exhibition of illustrators from Southeast Asia, from Asia, and showcase their published illustrations in various forms. Right? And one of the things that we are also doing to promote creatives from Southeast Asia is through our awards. So we give out 3 awards. The first one, the Hedwig Anwar Children's Book Awards, that's meant primarily for Singapore creators, but in collaboration with Scholastic Asia, we have 2 awards for unpublished manuscripts. One is the Scholastic Asia Asian Book Award, and the other is Scholastic Asia Picture Book Award. So these are open to writers, illustrators of Asian descent from Southeast Asia, from Asia, to submit their unpublished manuscripts, and they get to win some really good prize money and also a publishing contract with Scholastic Asia if they win the awards. Yep. Okay, I'll just skip this. So the country of focus, as I mentioned, is really one of our main platform in engaging and also profiling and showcasing our neighbors from Asia and Southeast Asia. So as you can see, for more than the past 10 years, we've had countries, more than 10 countries, right? We started with the Philippines, Malaysia, India, China, Japan, and in 2017, the country of focus was Indonesia, right? So we've also featured our neighbors, Myanmar, Thailand. So last year was Vietnam, and this year we went back to the Philippines again. It's sort of a nice full circle occasion because this year we celebrated 55 years of diplomatic relations between Singapore and the Philippines. So we welcome a delegation of about 40 creators, writers, illustrators, and as well as officials from the Philippines, right? Okay. One key part of the Country of Focus project is that we also have this co-translation book project in which we work with our country partner to select 5 children's books from each country and have them translated into their respective vernacular languages. So, for example, this year with the Philippines, so Philippines selected 5 picture books from the Philippines to have them translated from Tagalog into English, and then 5 picture books from Singapore translated from English into Tagalog. And these books will be distributed to the children in the respective countries. So this was a way to introduce our respective books by our writers to the featured countries. So we thought this could be a small way in encouraging some form of cross-cultural understanding, and also to make all these books accessible as well to the children in each country. Right? So we've done it for 3 countries. So we started with Thailand, last year was Vietnam, and this year is the Philippines. Okay, maybe let me just say a bit more about the Philippines. So they came, so Andrea was part of the delegation as well. So they brought really a lot of energy and color to AFCC and created many programs, more than 20 programs at AFCC. They talked about some of the issues that the publishing scene and also the writers also face. And we realized that we also face many of the challenges, right, in terms of getting children to read, raising the level of literacy, how to get the books out of the Philippines to other parts of the world. They also created many public programs, children's workshops, storytelling events. So that was a really wonderful way to introduce Filipino books and writers to the audiences in Singapore. And hopefully through that audiences in Singapore want to find out more about all these literatures and books from the Philippines as well. Yep. So what grew out of our Country of Focus initiative is also this AFCC Circle initiative. We realized that every year we feature and we work with a country partner from the respective countries, but we don't really necessarily follow up in terms of deepening that collaboration and partnership. So we started with this initiative, AFCC Circle, which the main aim is to build up a network of country partners from each of the respective Southeast Asian countries so that we can do more exchanges throughout the year, not just during AFCC. It could be through forum like this, or it could be through getting the creators from both countries to work on a book and then have them available to the children, right? So we started with the Philippines last year, and we'll continue with the Philippines again this year, and hopefully we can continue with our past countries of focus like Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia as well. Yep. Okay, so just a plug for next year's AFCC. So it will run 22nd to 25th of May at the National Library, and the theme is discovery. So this year's theme was curiosity. So once you have curiosity, you want to find out more, right? And our country of focus would be South Korea, right? Yep. So yep, please follow us on our socials and also go to our website to find out more. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Pauline?
Thank you, Laura. And thank you to the organizers for organizing this really dynamic few days, I think. It's a pleasure to be here. I have been involved in a few different sort of literary festivals, events. I'm sort of in between two, which is why I'm not putting myself as the Georgetown Literary Festival, which was a festival I was directing for the last 5 years. And I'm in the midst of curating a new festival, or creating and curating a new festival in Kuala Lumpur that will take place in November. I'll talk a bit about that a bit later. But I sort of fell into the curation somewhat accidentally, but perhaps not. As you mentioned in your intro, I do several things. I'm a writer, I'm a literary translator. And I think in Malaysia, the way it works sort of organically is that we have many, many literary circles, partly because we are very multilingual. We are like Singapore, of course, but perhaps, we're larger than Singapore, so we also have our circles of literature, and the complexity of the various circles is quite complex in terms of so many languages, not only the 4 languages that William mentioned, which is Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Malaysia, English, Tamil, and Chinese, but we also have the indigenous languages, of course. So if you look at the indigenous languages of the peninsula itself, and also, of course, East Malaysia, which has many, many indigenous languages in which people are also starting to write in as well. They're not only oral traditions. So I have been involved in the curation of several attempted festivals in Kuala Lumpur, which haven't quite taken off. But then also, I started to be part of the Georgetown Literary Festival in curation in about 2017, where I was one of the co-curators. That was the first year. For a long time, it was directed, there was one director, and there wasn't really a team of curators. But I think with the Georgetown Literary Festival, which is now about 14 years, it started off as a really small festival in Penang. Started off with, I think, 5 writers, if I'm not mistaken, and then it really grew quite fast and quickly. And so as it grew, the curatorial team had to grow as well. And so Bernice, who was the director at the time, invited me to be one of the co-curators in 2017. And through that, I was involved as moderator, as speaker, as curator, and eventually when Bernice left the Georgetown Literary Festival, they invited me, and the first year it was a co-directorship with me and Sharad Kutan, after which Sharad just decided he was too busy with his journalistic work, and so I took on the directorship of the festival. And I think with Georgetown, as with Singapore and of course Jakarta, we are sort of cosmopolitan centers, organically cosmopolitan. And so I think to be a site of a literary festival is very natural. I think what we tried to do at the Georgetown Literary Festival was definitely, the regional voices were definitely a big part of it. When I took over the directorship, I think one of my main goals was we already had a very, I think, established international network. And I think we were very known for a lot of local writers and local audience would come to listen to the international speakers. But I got the sense that actually many of the local various circles of writers didn't quite feel it was their own festival yet. The English-speaking Malaysian writers did, because they were constantly featured, but at that time, there was also not a huge participation from the Malay writers, partly because there were not many sessions that were held in Malay. And so the first thing that I did was to appoint a Malay curator, a Malay language curator, so that to expand the Malay program, to also, because I'm a translator, to focus on things like literary translation as well, and to make sure that there was always also very much regional participation. That is one of the natural things, and I do think that over the past few years it has become something that local writers feel is their own festival. And it's been an important platform not just for conversations about the region, but conversations amongst ourselves, because in Malaysia, the context in Malaysia is also that sometimes the focus is very much on either English Malaysians who write in English and have sometimes been published elsewhere or published in KL but writing in English. Not that there wasn't that much focus on translation, and there certainly wasn't much focus on the different various languages. Not just Malay, but even Mahua literature, which is the Malaysian Chinese literature, Tamil literature, and definitely indigenous literature as well. So I tried to make it a point of highlighting those things. In terms of regional participation, we've always had quite very strong, and actually from Indonesia, we've had many, many participants from Indonesia. Even before my time as director, already there was a lot of participation from Indonesia, and then I continued that as well. And so even Aan was there. I can't remember which year, but you were. At the Gunawan Muhammad was there. Pak Sapadi, I brought him to the festival as well. Ayu Tami and so many, yeah. So, but I do think that the regional issues that we talk about sometimes, I also tried to go beyond, in the curation of the festival, to try to go beyond just sort of making connections, because I think we're always making connections. So that sometimes I think I also try to also not just focus it as like, this is the regional panel, but to open it up and to really just make sure there's a very strong regional presence, but to put them in thematic sessions rather than just sessions that are talking about geographic, specificity of that we're talking from our region. Yes, we are talking from our region, but we're also all, as writers, talking about universal topics which should be actually discussed in the world. And so it is also, I think, when you curate, about striking a balance sometimes between knowing that you're from the region and sort of trying to represent in some way the regional balance, but also not to get too caught up in that, so that it's important to not only focus. Not every writer necessarily wants to represent their country. Not every writer wants to be there as the Malaysian or the Indonesian or the Vietnamese writer, right? Or to talk from that perspective. So many of them are just there, doing their thing, speaking from their individual experience as a writer or a translator or publisher as well. Some of them also not necessarily supported by their governments. So that's one thing I did appreciate about the Georgetown Literary Festival, was that it was a space where writers, publishers, translators who were not necessarily in great favor with their governments could come and actually talk about things that, so it was a space of freedom. I hope it continues, but we don't know yet. But I am creating a new space of freedom, hopefully, in Kuala Lumpur, which I think Kuala Lumpur is also another level of complexity, I think, because unlike Georgetown, which has a very sort of heritage zone and which got the UNESCO status as UNESCO Heritage Site, which enabled the Penang State Government, I think, to take on some initiatives to support culture and heritage, and including the festivals. That actually grew out of that. But KL has not really had that sort of, as a city, it's so spread out and complex and messy, and I think it's only now that Kuala Lumpur is starting to think about themselves as a city, as a place that can really be conducive for culture and creativity. And so I think now is actually the time for us to start to create something in Kuala Lumpur. 10 years ago, I think it wasn't so possible. I mean, we did try a few times. Even Aan was there at our pilot attempt as well, which ended up being a one-year thing. But I think this year, hopefully it will grow into something larger.
Before we go to the Indonesian friends, I just want to ask, who in the audience been to AFCC or Georgetown Literary Festival? There's not many, yeah? There's not many, only 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Okay, so AFCC, I've also never been to AFCC nor Georgetown. AFCC, who are the audience, the majority of audience?
The majority of the audiences are actually, I would say, maybe 3, maybe 4 main groups. So writers, illustrators, translators, publishers, and then the educators, right? And then parents and children, and then the general public. For the exhibition, for the free programs. So for the conference program, so that it's a bit more focused, more targeted, really at people who are in the children's book business, right? Creating books, writing books, illustrating books, publishing books, as well as translating books. And also for the educators, it's really then to introduce all these books to them so that they can bring them back to schools or their classrooms and use them with the students.
And majority are from Singapore or from other countries?
I would say majority are from Singapore, because I think from other countries, it's unless you are supported or you get grants from your respective governments or countries, Singapore is a very, very expensive country to travel in, right? So this year with the country of focus, Philippines, so their National Book Development Board supported the participation of the creatives, of the participants, yeah. But we do also get support from the various embassies, like from the US, from Korea, from France, to bring in their writers to Singapore as well, yeah.
So it really ties in with your original vision to bring all these children content for the Singaporean children, pretty much. Okay, that's good. Now, for the Georgetown Literary Festival, though, it's in Penang, and it's in English.
It was.
Yeah, it was in English.
That's what I tried to change.
But initially, who was the biggest audience? Were there a lot of English-speaking?
Malaysians are generally quite multilingual. So the audience, but this is also the thing. I think that the audience has increased to actually draw in now that it's, at least it was until last year, it was really quite multilingual, including not just Bahasa Melayu, but I actually appointed a guest curator to just do Mahua sessions in Mandarin, and also a Tamil literature co-curator as well to curate sessions in Tamil. And so it really did become quite multilingual as well. A lot of the audience was not only Penangites, actually people used to come from all over the country, especially Kuala Lumpur actually. A lot of people came from Kuala Lumpur and made it a weekend in Penang. And so it was like a nice excuse to go to Penang to also immerse themselves in literature. And I do think the demographic changed a bit, that more becoming more of a multilingual demographic as well.
And are there a lot of young people?
Yes, I think especially in the last couple of years, there was really a lot of young people, but it's always been a big draw for young people. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's move on to Jakarta International Literary Festival. We've got a new director, Anton Kurnia, and he is also the chair of the literature committee at the Jakarta Art Council. Can you talk a little bit about JILF?
Okay, thank you, Laura. We are at the Jakarta Arts Council. We have Jakarta International Literary Festival. This year, it's the 4th time. Yeah, we will hold the festival in November this year, and we have collaboration with JAT10. Yeah, thank you, Laura. We will collaborate more. Yeah. This year we have a special issue because we decide to focus our scope in between Southeast Asia writers and also scholars. And the main theme of our festival this year is about environment. We have some challenges like climate change, global warming and everything. And we try to make some more conversation about this. Yeah. So this is not the JILF or Jakarta International Literary Festival. It's not annually festival. It's international festival, but it's out like once in 2 years, like Biennale. Yeah. And we invite many writers. Not only from Indonesia, not only local authors, but also from another region. At the first festival, we had it. It was in 2019. We have like south to south focus, like many Asian writers, more Asian writers. We have Adania Sibli for Palestine as keynote speaker, and this year, I don't know, can we talk about the next festival? Yeah, we have a plan to invite a Japanese writer and also Indian writer. Yeah, I think we should not tell the name yet. Yeah. Maybe later, yeah. And also, we hope we can have more Southeast Asian writers to be here in next November. So it's the main events of the JILF and JAT10 festival this year. Yeah, I think it's for the initiation. Yeah, yeah. Maybe we can share more in the discussions. Yeah, it's November 27th until December 1st. Yeah, this year. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
But the name itself is Jakarta International Literary Festival. The international part of it, is it bringing voices from overseas, or the festival is actually created to target international audience?
Yeah, we invite international writers, but it's for Indonesian audience. But of course, we welcome more audience, yeah, also international audience, maybe from Singapore, from Malaysia, yeah, from Philippines, Thailand, and many Southeast Asian countries. Yeah, but our audience, it's usually a local audience in Jakarta here in Taman Ismail Marzuki. Yeah. But it's more about international writers. Yeah, and also yes, some global issues like environmental issues here in this year festival.
Thank you, Mas Anton.
Okay.
Let's move on
You're
to
welcome.
Mas
Okay. Thank you.
Aan. Makassar Writers Festival, this is something that is not new. Everyone, I think, how many people here that been to Makassar Writers Festival? A lot more. Go ahead.
Selamat siang, everyone. To give you a little bit introduction and context about Makassar International Writers Festival, but I think it's okay if I speak mostly in Bahasa Indonesia, so you can understand. Makassar International Writers Festival berdiri sejak 2011, jadi sekitar memasuki tahun ke-15. Sebenarnya MIWF adalah satu festival independen yang dikerjakan oleh satu rumah budaya bernama Rumata Art Space di Makassar. We actually have two annual festival. The first one is Sea Screen Academy, Southeast Asian Screen Academy. So it's focusing on film in Southeast Asia, and Makassar International Writers Festival. Dua event tahunan ini yang sebetulnya menjadi kerjaan kami. Rumata ini didirikan oleh dua foundernya adalah Riri Riza. Banyak orang mengenalnya sebagai filmmaker, dan Lili Yulianti Farid. Jadi satunya memang seorang jurnalis, penulis, dan satunya filmmaker. Jadi initially they are focusing on those two things, film and literature. Ketika memulai festival penulis, saya kebetulan lebih banyak aktif di Makassar International Writers Festival. Jadi sejak edisi pertama saya bekerja mempersiapkan programnya. Jadi di tahun pertama sampai beberapa tahun lalu saya bekerja menjadi kurator di festival ini. Karena kebetulan tahun lalu direkturnya Lili Yulianti Farid meninggal dunia, jadi mulai tahun ini saya bekerja sebagai direktur di festival ini. Untuk memberi sedikit konteks, Makassar International Writers Festival sebetulnya diusahakan sebagai satu ruang untuk semacam mencari dan menemukan identitas alternatif kota Makassar ya. Kalau teman-teman sedikit saya mau ngajak mundur ke tahun-tahun 2000, dekade awal 2000-an. Kalau kita meletakkan Makassar di Google, mungkin yang muncul adalah tawuran mahasiswa atau satu kota yang terasa sangat jauh dari isu-isu seperti sastra, seni dan sebagainya. Sehingga di masa itu karena kebetulan Lili, saya dan beberapa kawan yang aktif menulis, kami membayangkan membuat satu festival yang bisa minimal menjadi semacam satu ruang di mana kami berusaha untuk men-tackle beberapa isu-isu yang dihadapi oleh warga kota gitu. Sejak tahun pertama juga MIWF sebetulnya fokus sangat punya sikap yang agak geopolitis gitu. Tentu saja karena Makassar kalau di tahun-tahun itu sebetulnya kalau kita lihat peta-peta kesenian kita, peta sastra, itu masa-masa ketika yang mungkin yang muncul nama-nama ya di peta itu bukan kota-kota di luar Jawa ya gitu. Selalu yang muncul adalah kota-kota di luar Jawa. Sementara di kawasan-kawasan terutama kami di Makassar International Writers Festival focusing on eastern part of Indonesia, jadi region di Indonesia Timur. Sejak tahun pertama memang sudah mulai mempertimbangkan bagaimana satu festival yang pada mulanya sangat geopolitis berhadapan dengan situasi yang bagaimanapun mau kita terima atau tidak yang masih sangat Jawa sentris masa itu dalam banyak hal, menjadikan festival ini untuk menjadi ruang atau hub buat teman-teman di kawasan timur. Tapi pada saat bersamaan tentu saja juga Makassar mulai menjadi bagian untuk memikirkan gimana caranya supaya MIWF juga tidak menciptakan Makassar sebagai quote-unquote kayak Jakarta baru di kawasannya. Jadi sejak itu pun membayangkan bagaimana bekerja berjejaring dengan teman-teman di Indonesia Timur. Dalam perkembangannya Makassar International Writers Festival tumbuh menjadi festival yang sebetulnya menjadi festival yang kami sebut sebagai festival gagasan gitu. Jadi tidak lagi menjadi dalam pengertian yang konvensional tentang festival sastra atau festival penulis ya, tapi more like ideas festival. So this festival is like cross disciplinary, cross art form dan sebagainya. Jadi tidak lagi hanya mendatangkan penulis, sastrawan gitu, tapi kami mendatangkan aktivis, jurnalis, scholar, tentu saja penulis-penulis sastra, seniman-seniman lain. Dan di festival juga bentuk-bentuk kegiatannya tidak hanya membicarakan isu-isu sastra gitu. Karena dalam perkembangannya menjadi satu festival yang melihat sebetulnya dirinya sebagai satu metode untuk men-tackle isu-isu tertentu yang kita rancang, yang kita bayangkan menjadi sesuatu yang dihadapi oleh warga terutama di kawasan Timur Indonesia. Tahun ini yang baru berlangsung 3 bulan yang lalu, itu bulan Mei, temanya mothering, othering, jadi M/othering. So we talk a lot about care working and the other side we talk about a lot about marginal communities. So kita merancang banyak program tahun ini. Selama 4 hari ada 150 program yang berlangsung, dan itu bukan hanya panel diskusi, tentu saja panel diskusinya ada banyak, tapi bentuknya ada banyak pertunjukan, ada program-program film, program komunitas, program pertunjukan, musik, dan bahkan tahun ini ada 6 pameran gitu yang berlangsung selama 4 hari di venue. Tapi juga tetap menjadi satu festival literasi. Tahun ini kita mendiskusikan dan meluncurkan sekitar 30-an lebih buku gitu di selama 4 hari. Dan kita bekerja sama dengan kurang lebih hampir 20 penerbit di Indonesia. Jadi itu. Tapi kemudian memang festival kita menjadi sangat bergantung kepada tema setiap tahunnya. Jadi tema itu yang sangat menentukan bagaimana festival setiap tahunnya diformat, apa yang akan dipercakapkan, siapa yang akan hadir, bentuk-bentuk programnya akan jadi seperti apa. Tidak lagi misalnya ada tentu saja beberapa layer kerja kurasi dalam festivalnya tentu saja ya. Karena ada selalu setiap tahun ada 3 kurator utama, tapi ada kurator-kurator lain yang memang memikirkan misalnya kegiatan-kegiatan yang khusus fokus ke jejaring komunitas. Karena festival ini sebetulnya sangat didukung oleh jejaring komunitas ya. Jadi setiap tahun MWF itu bekerja dengan setidaknya 50-an komunitas di setiap tahun. Jadi dia tidak mungkin bisa tumbuh tanpa kerja bareng dengan komunitas. Jadi setiap tahun juga kami bekerja sama dengan komunitas tertentu untuk merancang program-program khusus untuk kebutuhan di level sesama komunitas gitu. Tema-temanya tetap juga akan mengikuti tema utama festival, tapi mereka merancang sendiri kebutuhannya mereka sendiri, merancang programnya sendiri gitu. Jadi misalnya tahun ini ada sekitar 30-an panel dan beberapa program yang mereka rancang sendiri untuk kebutuhan di level komunitas mereka sendiri. Audiensnya mereka cari sendiri. Selain itu karena festival ini punya sejumlah prinsip-prinsip dasar yang juga membentuk festival ini, kami juga dalam urusan dengan program-programnya selalu melakukan kurasi-kurasi tertentu. Misalnya sejak awal memang festival ini dirancang sebagai satu metode karena kami tumbuh di satu masyarakat yang sangat patriarkis, sangat maskulin tentu saja di Makassar itu. Tapi di satu sisi juga sebetulnya sebuah masyarakat yang punya nilai-nilai yang sebetulnya sangat cair, tapi kemudian berkembang menjadi sangat maskulin, sangat patriarkis gitu. Sehingga sejak awal kami memiliki prinsip-prinsip dasar, misalnya bahwa festival kita harus punya spirit feminisme gitu misalnya. Jadi kami harus merancang bahwa festival ini harus digerakkan minimal oleh 75% perempuan gitu. Sehingga ketika kami misalnya setiap tahun ada begitu banyak volunteer yang mau mendaftar ya. Kayak tahun ini ada 630-an orang yang mendaftar mau jadi volunteer gitu. Dan kami harus mengkurasi sesuai kebutuhan dan minimal dari volunteer itu harus 75% perempuan misalnya. Itu yang menentukan misalnya di festival kami tidak boleh ada satu panel pun yang semuanya laki-laki misalnya gitu. Karena sejak awal ada prinsip yang nggak boleh dilanggar kayak gitu. Itu satu contoh. Sejak 2017-18 kami juga punya prinsip bahwa ini festival yang zero waste and low carbon festival. Jadi kami tidak menginginkan ada satu sampah pun yang berakhir di pembuangan sampah gitu. Sehingga sebetulnya ketika saya bilang tadi berlangsung Mei, sebetulnya MIWF tahun ini belum berakhir gitu. Kenapa? Karena kami sedang mempersiapkan program akhir dari festival itu, yaitu planting, biasanya untuk carbon offsetting. Sehingga di kira-kira pertengahan bulan ini kami akan menanam sekitar 350 mangrove untuk membayar dosa karbon yang kami gitu, yang kami hitung. Karena tahun ini dibanding tahun lalu penerbangan flightnya jauh lebih besar karena banyak pembicara dari luar gitu, listrik dan sebagainya yang digunakan gitu, sehingga kami harus membayar itu dengan menanam pohon setiap tahun. Nah, jadi ada prinsip-prinsip dasar seperti itu yang menentukan arah festivalnya sebetulnya. Kalau pertanyaannya siapa audiens utamanya, salah satu hal yang menurutku menggembirakan MIWF sejak tahun pertama adalah secara organik publiknya tumbuh gitu. 5 tahun pertama kami memang punya target untuk membayangkan satu generasi gitu yang tumbuh dengan festival ya. Jadi 5 tahun pertama tuh audiens utamanya sebetulnya keluarga muda yang punya anak kecil. Jadi kami membayangkan anak-anak ini yang kemudian akan tumbuh menjadi. Jadi kami ketika membuat festival itu yang kami bayangkan audiensnya bukan orang segenerasi kami gitu. Karena ya apalagi bukan hanya kami yang teman-teman sastrawan misalnya gitu ya. Tapi memang bayangkan publik umum yang membawa anak kecil mereka. Jadi kalau teman-teman datang ke MIWF tahun ini atau tahun depan misalnya bertanya ke audiens itu, mungkin mereka datang waktu mereka masih sangat kecil gitu. Dan itu sekarang yang jadi volunteer yang menggerakkan MIWF. Dan itu satu menggembirakan gitu melihatnya, karena jumlahnya juga untuk ukuran satu festival menjadi sangat besar ya tentu saja, apalagi dengan kapasitas kemampuan kami gitu. Beberapa tahun terakhir ini angka publik MIWF selama 4 hari itu selalu di angka rata-rata di atas 25.000 orang gitu yang datang ke festival, dan itu mostly anak-anak muda yang sebetulnya tadi tumbuh dari waktu masih kecil gitu. Tapi kami juga sangat merancang festival menjadi festival yang inklusif dalam pengertian bukan hanya cross generasi ya. Karena sebenarnya di tim kami itu mulai dari generasi yang jauh lebih tua dari saya sampai generasi yang jauh lebih muda dari saya gitu. Tapi audiensnya juga seperti itu. Tetapi juga merancang satu festival yang inklusif dalam pengertian melibatkan sebanyak mungkin komunitas-komunitas di luar yang kita bayangkan dalam skena kesenian gitu. Misalnya membayangkan festival ramah buat teman-teman disabilitas gitu. Makanya di beberapa tahun terakhir ini menyenangkan gitu melihat teman-teman tuli, teman-teman netra gitu datang dan merayakan festival. Tentu saja belum semua hal bisa kita rancang, tapi itu selalu usaha untuk terlibat dan bekerja bersama mereka untuk merancang satu ruang yang bisa menjadi semacam metode untuk, yaitu tadi ya, semacam metode untuk membicarakan, mempercakapkan isu-isu yang oleh masyarakat di mana kami tinggal kami hadapi gitu. Jadi kurang lebih seperti itu, dan memang sejak awal ketika kami merancangnya, kurang lebih memang festival ini dibayangkan bahwa sastra tuh sebetulnya punya, kalau kita ngomongin sastra, punya kemampuan dan bisa jadi satu ruang untuk memungkinkan terjadinya hal-hal yang seperti itu sih kurang lebih.
Thank you. Maybe I'll do a little summary for those that don't speak Indonesian. So Makassar International Writers Festival, it's on its 15th year this year, yeah. And I think it grew to become a festival that is owned by Makassar people. Right? I mean, if you manage to get 50 communities to do events, to manage everything from the program until the audience, it became their festival as well. They have ownership upon the festival. And it's aligned to the original vision where you wanted Makassar to have an identity other than tawuran, fighting, school fights. If you Google Makassar in the past, you'll find school fights and all these things. But the founders, Mas Riri and Mbak Lili almarhumah, from the film sector and literature sector, they wanted something that can pull together Makassar people and create something that is in the line of arts and culture. And now Makassar grow to organically, the first audience are now the current audience parents and grandparents, not yet, just parents, yeah. And yeah, that's amazing. And I don't think we have anything as big as Makassar International Writers Festival in that region, right? I mean, we have Ubud Writers Festival in Bali, but I think in Sulawesi, or even
but now
right?
actually, because we have a special program called Emerging Writers Festival and focusing on eastern part of Indonesia. So every year we choose like 6 or 7 emerging writers from eastern part, and then other than reading their work, actually we select these emerging writers based on the communities where they come from. So after they came from Makassar International Writers Festival, they probably want to create something like a festival, mini festival on their places or their communities. Now in Eastern part Indonesia have a festival Sastra Banggai. Actually this year will be like the 8th edition, and the founder actually is one of the Emerging Writers Festival. So FSB, Festival Sastra Banggai, we call it like a sister festival with Makassar International Writers Festival. And then now we have Flores Writers Festival. Actually this year will be the 4th edition, and we work together with the communities where the organizer of the Flores Writers Festival. And in Kupang we have Floba Mora Festival, and even in South Sulawesi we have Sorowako Writers and Readers Festival. Actually the founder is high school, and before the founder this festival running Sorowako Reader Festival, actually she is the one of a volunteer in Makassar Writers Festival. So now in eastern part of Indonesia we have a lot of festival with a lot of motive and its context, and we try to work together with them, and then we create, like, we call it a sister festival.
So I know AFCC invites a lot of speakers from Southeast Asian region, and also Georgetown Festival in the past. What about GILF and Makassar International Writers Festival? Because I feel like there are more speakers from far, far away places, but not so many from the ASEAN region. Am I wrong?
From the very first edition, I think MWeb always invite like Malaysian writers. Every year we have Malaysian writers in Makassar International Writers Festival. Asrik and Ainun and Hafiz, of course, and yeah, they already in Makassar International Writers Festival. But mostly from Malaysia and Singapore. Sejujurnya kita tidak begitu banyak tahu tentang apa yang terjadi di negara-negara seperti Vietnam misalnya atau Filipina dan beberapa negara yang lain. Terutama misalnya yang jauh lebih dekat dengan kawasan kami, Timor Leste misalnya. Tentu saja kalau kami bicara soal kawasan timur Indonesia, harusnya gitu. Kami sedang menjajaki kemungkinan untuk bertemu dengan komunitas-komunitas yang ada di Timor Leste untuk bisa hadir di Indonesia. Tapi ya itu tadi, saya sepakat dengan apa yang Pauline bilang bahwa sebetulnya cara kita melihat ini harus beyond representation gitu. Like ya kalau ada Malaysian writers is enough now, I think. Jadi apa yang terjadi adalah karena kami adalah festival gagasan, sebetulnya apakah gagasan ini memang juga penting untuk dipercakapkan oleh teman-teman di kawasan ini gitu. Misalnya ya kami tidak melulu menghadirkan penulis Malaysia untuk bicara apa yang terjadi di Malaysia dalam scene sastranya gitu. Tapi misalnya tahun lalu kami mengundang Hafiz untuk bicara di satu panel misalnya praktik-praktik dekolonisasi yang terjadi di kawasan ini. Apa yang terjadi? Gimana praktik-praktik dekolonisasi terjadi di Malaysia di Malaysia misalnya. Hal-hal seperti itu yang saya kira. Jadi kebutuhan tema dan itu yang bisa menentukan karena saya kira akan jauh lebih relate kalau yang kita bicarakan adalah persoalan-persoalan yang kurang lebih sama gitu. Misalnya nih tahun depan kami sedang mempersiapkan MWF untuk tahun depan yang akan berlangsung juga akhir Mei sampai awal Juni 2025. Temanya Land and Hand, tentu saja itu tema yang relevan dibicarakan di kawasan ini gitu. Misalnya mungkin alih-alih mendatangkan penulis dari Kuala Lumpur, mungkin kami akan mendatangkan penulis dari Malaysia Timur misalnya, karena situasinya kurang lebih itu yang mereka hadapi misalnya. Nah, jadi imajinasi kita tentang kawasan ini harus menjadi bagian di mana kebutuhannya melampaui sekadar bahwa ada representasi penulis tertentu dari kawasan dari negara ini hadir di MWF gitu. Sebetulnya mungkin cukup menarik ya, karena kalau saya enggak tahu, tapi saya ini agak spekulatif, tapi mungkin agak berbeda dengan teman-teman kalau di Jakarta misalnya. Tapi kalau di luar Jawa, sebetulnya kalau kita bicara Malaysia, hampir semua orang punya semacam urusan yang sangat personal dengan Malaysia gitu. Kamu tidak bisa ketemu sama orang di Makassar kalau kamu ngomong Malaysia mereka bisa bicara tentang sesuatu yang berhubungan secara personal dengan Malaysia. Entah keluarganya pergi ke sana, merantau ke Malaysia. Saya misalnya bapakku meninggal di sana dan saya nggak tahu pulang gitu gimana. Saya jauh sebelum membaca Sapardi, saya membaca penyair-penyair Malaysia gitu. Atau kami tumbuh dengan lagu-lagu Malaysia gitu. Jadi sangat dekat. Sehingga sebetulnya alih-alih hanya memperkenalkan penulis-penulis tertentu, sebetulnya ada begitu banyak sekali isu di mana kami saling terhubung sebetulnya. Gitu kayak kita bicara masifnya perampasan lahan gitu. Itu juga yang terjadi di Malaysia kan. Jadi kalau itu yang membicarakan saya kira akan jauh lebih kuat.
So you pretty much touch on my next question, yeah. That's for you. That's the biggest challenge in creating more space for conversation among the Southeast Asian regions, because with Malaysia we have similar language, but we don't know much about other countries. What about you? What do you think?
Definitely, I think languages is definitely one of the biggest challenges, but also in terms of that accessibility and visibility, right? Because what we notice every time we have a country of focus program, once the writers who come from the featured country, they bring their books. The writers will come and talk at the festival. But a lot of the times, the books, the children's books, are not translated into any of the 4 official languages, either English or Chinese, Malay or Tamil, right? So a lot of times, the audiences are not able to read the books. So even if they love the illustrations and all, they would sometimes they will buy it, but they are not able to read it. So I think that's one of the main reasons why we wanted to also focus on the importance of translation, and also using the co-translation project to hopefully facilitate more translations of all these children's books as well. But I think at the same time, we also have to be careful. I think yesterday, we talked about publishing in Southeast Asia, how to get more flow of books in translation. I think at the same time, we should also be careful not to foreground the importance of English over the diversity and richness of languages in the region. English, no doubt, is important as a form to facilitate, to communicate. But I think it's also a tool for us to use it to highlight the diverse range of languages in the region as well. So we can use it as a way to highlight all these books that have been translated from the different languages. Because I think what we are very cognizant of is that we don't want to use translation as a way to flatten, the different cultures, the different languages. But how do we use it to highlight, because I think that is such a treasure, in Southeast Asia. So how do we facilitate that? Because I think at festivals, it's easy to make the connections to meet everyone, right? But once the festivals are over, how do we keep that form of connections continue? How do we continue that? How do we facilitate that form of communication, of exchanges? Hence the idea of an AFCC Circle initiative came about. How do we sustain that? So, but I do think it takes everyone in the whole ecosystem, from literary festival organizers, from writers, from publishers, from the literary arts organizations, to find a way to work together. Yeah.
What about you, Pauline? What's your thought on this?
So I have a few thoughts actually Actually, I agree a lot with what Ann said. I'm so impressed actually with the Makassar festival, because I think it's quite rare to have something that is really organic. I think a lot of our cities, including the Georgetown Literary Festival, sort of decided they wanted something to, have as an identity, sort of, we've become this city which we want to attract more people, we want to attract a different kind of audience, and we want to brand ourselves as this kind of creative city. There are good things about that approach, but also sometimes not so good things, So one thing is that you don't want to fall into the situation of being completely dependent on state funding, for example. Okay, because that sometimes, if the state changes its mind or changes its, whoever is sitting in the bureaucracies of the state have suddenly different priorities, and if that is something like the main thing that is sustaining your festival, this can be problematic, where the good thing about Georgetown Literary Festival for a long time was that while it was supported by the Penang state government, is that we always had an independent director and an independent curatorial team, so that who came from the community of literature, the literary community in Malaysia. And so that, I think, is very important, even if there is something that is state initiated, that the curatorial aspect really has to be independent, and something that people who are really immersed in that community as well, because you need the organicness from the curatorial aspect and from the audience aspect. And for me, it was important to expand the languages that were spoken in Georgetown Literary Festival, precisely for that reason also, because one is that I felt it wasn't quite reaching the organic circles and the organic audience of Malaysia, and that's what I attempted to do. But the translation, I totally agree with William about that. While you want to get as much work translated from local languages, I mean, we forget also, English is also a local language, even though it's global as well, but it's also very local, It's not the be and end all of what we aspire to as translators or as writers is to get everything published in English so that the world can read it. I mean, it's certainly an important aspect, but equally important is also the translation of work from other languages into local languages, you know. And so, I mean, we have actually some translators and also a publisher here, even from Malaysia, like Initiative Buku Darul Ihsan, doing really good work of translating into Malay. You know, and then those are initiatives that also really need to be supported, I think. And in a space where you talk about regional writing or regional publishing also, I think it's very important to have also conversations, not about just those, even not just those who can speak in English, you know. So I've always very much welcomed people who are speaking in their own language, and I really just try to get a translator, to get an interpreter, so that we can understand if someone is just more comfortable speaking in Thai, which we had in our last festival. I just found a Thai interpreter because I still want to really hear what they are saying. I don't need someone to be there speaking perfect English and explaining, you know, the situation of Thailand, because again, we're not representative of Thailand. They are speaking from their own experience as a writer, as a translator, as a publisher, and that is invaluable. So it's always, I think, also striking a balance between, for practical reasons, it's good to have state support, for sure, and it's good to have the support of the city, but we must also be, I think, aware that our visions as curators and as literary community do not always align. And also with the politics changing every few years, those things are never permanent. And so what is permanent or what can be consistent is perhaps a literary vision that can continue. And so the links that we make also, on the city level and the national level, I think is important, but I think it's more important to have really strong links at the people-to-people level, because those are the things that are not going to break. And that's the thing that's really going to keep the literature circles flowing.
Mas Anton, the first JILF focused on South to South.
Yes.
So if you were to prioritize Southeast Asian region, what do you think would be the biggest challenge to have this space for conversation among the region?
Yeah, okay. The main idea why we decide to focus on Southeast Asia region in this year festival, because we think that in Indonesia we should know more about our neighborhood in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. Maybe we have many literary translation books from Europe, European countries, let's say, like from Germany, from France, and everything. But actually, we don't have too many books from our Southeast Asian countries fellow. Specifically, the newest one, the Morrison books. Maybe in the past we have some translation, classic literary translation, like from Jose Rizal from Philippines, and maybe Shannon Ahmad from Malaysia, and etc. But I think the recent literary works, we don't know much about that. So we hope we can have more conversations between our fellow Southeast Asian writers in this region, and also talk about our common issues. So maybe we have some common issues that we can discuss in this year festival, in the next festival. In November, we try to talk about environment and also about some issues, some global issues. And for the writers, actually, we don't only invite South Asian writers from Southeast Asian countries, but also Southeast Asian writers that live in abroad, like in US or maybe in Australia, like we have a plan to invite Ocean Vuong, a Vietnamese writer that who has become a U.S. citizen. So the point is we want to talk more about our common issues here in Southeast Asian region.
Okay, maybe I can share a little bit also about Jakarta Content Week and why we created this festival and why we want to focus on Asia Pacific, because I feel that a lot of conversations are evolve around the Western content, right? But in fact, what Edmund was saying yesterday, Southeast Asia itself has 800 million people. I mean, there you go. That's a huge audience, right? Huh? What's that? Oh, 650 million. Sorry, I like to add on things. Soon 800. But that's a big audience, you know. When you go to Europe, I don't think the growth population is increasing by as much as in Southeast Asia. So for JAKTENT, I think it was very important to have this forum as a platform to hear stories from our region. But then it comes back down to network. I mean, we can have a theme, and this theme can be spoken by someone from Vietnam or Thailand or Philippines or Cambodia, but we sometimes don't know who to contact or who can be the speakers, because maybe, like you said, translated books are not that many. We don't know much about the stories from those regions. So coming back to the question that I have, is it important to create this forum or some sort of network that could tie us even closer to each other? Maybe this could be another extra effort so that we can be, you know, closer. Because when Jakarta was designated as the UNESCO City of Literature in 2021, it was something that very new to Southeast Asia. We are the first city in Southeast Asia to have this title. There is a UNESCO World Book Capital in Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur, but it's a different program of UNESCO. So when we became one of the cities of literature, it's a network that only prioritizes programs for members of City of Literature. So for example, in total there's about 57 cities around the world that have this title, and each city, they have their own program. They have residency program, they have writing workshop, whatever program. And the people that could apply for these programs are people that come from other cities of literature. Isn't that brilliant? Like the chance of us sending an author from Jakarta to Latvia, for example, or a Latvian author coming to JAKTENT, for example, is very rare unless you have this network, unless you have this community or forum or platform that, hey, I have this theme. Do you have any author to recommend, for example? And this is exactly what happened last year at JAKTENT when we had a Palestinian author. What was her name again? I forgot. Maya. Huh? Maya. Yeah, Maya. We wanted to showcase voices from the Palestine, and we don't know anyone in the Palestine, and also they're in war. It's very difficult, you know, to get hold. But because of this network, we threw this question in the network immediately. You know, people recommended authors, contacts, and all that, and then we managed to invite Maya, and she came out of all the obstacles that she had to go through, the war and everything, to Jakten, and we get to hear stories directly from her. We didn't know who Maya was unless it was being introduced. So I feel like, I'm sure there are so many stories from Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, just our neighbors, but we don't know because we just don't know them. We never heard of them. We never, What do you think of this? What kind of forum can we have so that this doesn't just stay in Jakten this week, but then, it can continue. GILF next year can have people from Cambodia, Vietnam, or, what do you think? Who can share first?
Okay, in the context of Makassar International Writers Festival, first we are actually doing some method about these things. Pertama, misalnya MWF itu sekarang bergabung dalam satu aliansi namanya regional-regional. Jadi dia terlibat bergabung dengan satu aliansi yang sebenarnya di-provide oleh Asia Link Arts di Australia.
I'm sure some people want to know what you're saying. Can you speak in English?
Okay, so Makassar
fine.
International Writers Festival is one of the members of regional alliance provide actually by Asia Link Arts in Australia. So this regional focusing on Asia Pacific and Australia. So we work with like more than 30 festival and producer in Asia Pacific. No, actually Makassar International Writers Festival is the only literary festival. But the other than like dance festival, theater festival, performance festival, and so on and so on. And yeah, as you mentioned, actually this kind of doing a forum, because we have like bi-monthly online meeting, so we share knowledge, we share how to organize festival, we share how to get funding, how to exchange like artists or speakers, and then we have annual gathering. This last year we met in Tasmania, and then next gathering will be in Gimui, Australia. So I think we can create this kind of alliance or forum in Southeast Asia. And another method with what Makassar International doing is like creating a networking directly to the communities, like in Malay. For example, Amir Muhammad. Almost every year, actually, Fiksi and Makassar International are doing this kind of collaboration. So Fiksi facilitate 1 or 2 writers from Malaysia to be in Makassar International Writers Festival. So this morning, actually, I talked with Pauline about creating this kind of collaboration. For example, MWF and the festival in KL doing this kind of so when KL want to invite like writers from eastern part of Indonesia, they have no imagination about writers from Papua, but we have, because we have a lot of connection with the Papuan writers. So they just provide, for example, invitation for the writers, and then Makassar International Writers Festival doing like informal curation to find what the writers, the KL festival need, and then the other way around. So this kind of thing, I think we can do that. I think, but because actually, as a festival organizer, we don't have a lot of facility to create another way. Yeah. Actually, like in Makassar, because every year we have, for example, Malaysian writers. We in Makassar how to engage community to know more about Malaysian writers. We sometimes have like a book club that focusing reading and discussing Malaysian writers. So because we know, I mean, we know a lot of Vietnamese writers, but we know them because they publish in somewhere in US or in UK. Nowadays we have a lot of Vietnamese famous writers. We access because they are a Booker Prize nominee or something. Or I think that's happened. I mean, probably mostly readers here in Jakarta know Tash Hao as a Malaysian writer because but they don't know Azric nor Azric because Azric didn't come a Booker Prize nominee. So this kind of thing actually happened in this region. It's interesting to see how the filmmaker communities works because they have like this kind of Southeast Asian pride. When you see in a film festival, when Indonesian film won, for example, in some award in some, for example, Venice Film Festival, and then they are really proud to say I am a Southeast Asian filmmaker. We don't have the kind of pride in literary scene, right? And actually in Makassar, because we have a Southeast Asian Screen Academy, so we know how these filmmakers communities work. They are very, probably because film is quite accessible, because screening movies like you just read the subtitles, but you can read like directly. You can read Tagalog in the book version, but you can enjoy Tagalog film because we have a subtitle. But I mean, the awareness among those filmmakers, for example, we can learn about that to bring in a literary scene, I think.
You want to add? Anyone want to add?
Yeah, I do think, I agree actually. That kind of network can be extremely helpful and useful, particularly when curating. I've always also gone with thematic curation, and usually, like Anne, whenever we curate the Georgetown Literary Festival, and I think that's my approach even to the new KL Festival, is that usually I don't sit and think I need Thai, Vietnamese, Cambodian, Indonesian, however many people. It is that I try as much as possible to curate according to what the theme needs and what the theme requires and who might be the best person to speak about that theme. But again, it is not always easy because, like, as Anne said, we had discussion earlier today, and when it's true, even in Malaysia, we do read a lot of Indonesian literature, but it tends to be very much Jakarta-based writers. And I think that's certainly an imbalance, but we don't know any better. And also we don't have the access. And so certainly, if there is a way, so I've also told Anne, when I want to start inviting, I also want recommendations and his kind of helpful, informal curation of Eastern Indonesian writers. And in the same way, I can help to informally curate writers from East Malaysia, like from Borneo, Sabah Sarawak, who even sometimes Peninsular Malaysia tends to forget. So there are all those subtle imbalances. It's not always intentional, but I think when we try to rectify those things, we can certainly, and the best way to do it is to reach out to people who know. It's the same even with curating. So one of the things we did with the Georgetown Literary Festival, and actually Azric was involved and also Hafiz was involved. I don't know where Hafiz is. But we started over the past 2-3 years, I can't remember how many years it was, 2 or 3 years, we did a journal. So we started to publish a Georgetown Literary Festival journal that we called Muara, and it was 3 years. Actually, Sfara was our partner for the first 2 years, and then the third year, IBDE, and Azric was also one of the editors for that book. But that is also, we used it as to be another platform. That started during the COVID years because everything went online during COVID, and I did 2 years of sort of virtual sessions, which became interesting but frustrating, and we really was missing something physical and tangible during that time. So we said, let us do a physical publication. But that too, we wanted to make that really regional, but that too was also, you have to put the right editor in place to make sure you get the sort of, not representation, but the diversity of voices that you want. And I think it was a good experience. The network that you're talking about, this kind of, if there's something that we can start, I think it would be really welcome, as long as, again, it doesn't get bogged down by bureaucracy. Because, again, some of those things, there are also networks that are just there in existence and become just a bureaucratic forum of just that. So what we don't want is to slip into that sort of bureaucratic, we don't know why we're existing, but we're here, kind of network. But if there is something that we can really make into an organic, living, and dynamic network, that I would absolutely welcome it.
William, you've got something to add?
Thanks. I totally agree with you. I think another network is always good to have to bring the different countries together. But I think at the same time, there are various networks that are already in existence. So, for example, just before this event, there's actually another event going on in the building organized by INABI, which is the Indonesian chapter of IBI, which is International Board for Books for Young People, right? So IBI is an international organization that has chapters in various countries, in Indonesia and Thailand and the Philippines, so on and so forth. So we work closely with them. So we usually go to the representatives from each of the country chapters to ask them for recommendations of writers, right? We also ask Scooby, for some of you may know, is a society for children's book writers and illustrators, which also has chapters in different countries, in Singapore, in the Philippines, in Australia. So we also ask them for recommendations. So, and for the Book Council, we also have an advisor, a board of advisors. So we have Andrea from the Philippines, Dr. Murthy from the Indonesia, and so on from Myanmar, so on and so forth. So we also go to them for all these recommendations, advice. So I guess it's because all of us, I mean, the 10 different countries are members of ASEAN, but ASEAN focuses really more on the economic part, not so much on the culture part, right? So where do we find, the synergies with all these various networks that are already in existence? I mean, there's the ASEAN Book Publishers Association as well that has been in existence for a long time, right? So we also work with some of the publishers associations in Vietnam, in the Philippines, Thailand, so on and so forth. So, but how do we sort of, with this sort of new network or forum that we are very interested in creating, how does that synergize with all of this, that it value adds rather than, gets bogged down with, all the coordination and,
Yeah, definitely. We don't want to create another association, for sure. I think it should develop as a, as a friendship first, right? And it should be casual, informal, I think. I don't know what Mas Anton thinks.
If we talk about networking here among Southeast Asian writers, let's say, we should make some connection. And I think this event is a good start. And we have to make more events like this, not only in Jakarta, maybe in other cities in Indonesia and also in other countries in Southeast Asia. And I think maybe we should make some a real movement, maybe like we can produce some output from this event, maybe like publish some, maybe later, publish some anthology of Southeast Asian poetry, for example. Maybe we can share some stories there. We can publish some like a books together. Like Aan said before, that we should have like Southeast Asian pride we can see that like South American writers, maybe if we saw like a phenomenon like album in 60s, it not happen suddenly, but it's an output from the like networking and also collaboration. We should remember that the album phenomenon, it's not only about Latin American or South American writers, but it's also about the infrastructure that built that movement. Let's say that they have Carmen Balcells, like a militant literary agents, and also they have like collaboration between South American countries and Spain, because but yeah, I should say that we have a little different condition. Like in South American countries, they have one language, Spanish language, except for Brazil, I think. They speak and write in Portuguese, and they share commonly they share same historical experience in they colonized by Spain in the past time. But the other thing, they have like a strong connection with Spain in this time. So they have like Carmen Bessa, they have a good relationship with Spanish publishers there. Yeah, in Southeast Asia, we don't share that thing. We have same experience maybe in colonial period, but specifically we had different experience. Let's say that like in Malaysia, maybe they have a strong connection with the UK, with England, but not like us in Indonesia. We have different experience in that colonial period. We colonized by Dutch, but I don't think we have strong connection now with the Dutch publishers. Yeah, it's just an example. But I think the point is we have to have like a strong network and produce something out of that.
Maybe before producing something that's a bit heavy, what do you think about creating just like a simple WhatsApp group between the literary festival director?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
just
good
a WhatsApp
idea.
group,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. But we only have 10 minutes, so I really want to hear questions from the audience, and maybe the audience also have some ideas on what efforts we can be made to connect cities, festivals, and literary movements in Southeast Asia. Maybe the audience can answer this for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Raka, and personally, I think we did touch a lot on how the literary movements and festivals can help each other in terms of curation, but we didn't really touch outside of that. So, for example, how to diversify your income streams from like non-government sponsors, because stuff like that, like how to get a sponsor, ticket and non-ticket revenue streams, that's not knowledge that's freely available. Additionally, for like AFCC, from the presentation you gave, it's very apparent that you are well-versed in managing translators. Ms. Pauline, you talk a lot about having interpreters for people who cannot speak English. Like, these are non-curating technical skills that I think a lot of festivals need, and they don't really know where to go, right? And so, yeah, like, I think that is something that, I don't know, like, I'm not part of this scene, so maybe that is explored. You guys just didn't talk about it, but yeah. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll make sure to have that session at Jakten in November. So you better come. Yeah, Mas Anton? Any?
Should we
Oh.
just respond very
Oh, yeah,
quickly,
yeah, please.
perhaps? Yeah, I do think, for sure, from the Georgetown Literary Festival's point of view, that was something that we always discussed about trying to diversify income streams, for sure, except that our principle was actually to have a completely free festival for everyone. And so we never charged a cent to attend any of the sessions. It was just against the festival's principle. I think the only thing we charged for ever was sometimes workshops, but what we do charge for workshops basically goes to the person who is conducting the workshop. It's payment for them. And we took like tiny commission. And so as a festival, I'm not saying that's necessarily the best way to go, because it ends up being that you actually don't have a fund of your own, and you are constantly dependent on state support or support from wherever else. We have partners of course, embassies. Sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes some patron will come along and give us a contribution. But not having a steady income has its pros and cons. For one, I love to just give free programs for everything, and I'm hoping to do that in Kuala Lumpur as well, at least to begin with, because I do believe also there is a huge audience that can't necessarily afford a ticket, but really wants to come, and not just in Penang or KL or whoever, even orang kampung di seberang and like from Kedah, they will come, but if you charge a ticket, it will really just hinder. And they won't even consider it. There are many people like that. And that is also the audience that, for me, is important to reach. You don't just want the same people who have a lot of access and perhaps even travel around to attend literary festivals. You do want to reach your local audience who don't necessarily have that opportunity. So it is definitely a question, it's a perennial question and a perennial problem that we always have to deal with.
And it's very complex. I mean, we can talk about it in a workshop, perhaps. Yeah. Most of us are NGOs. All the festivals are NGOs, right? And then most of us are free ticketed, fair, except for AFCC. Everything is expensive in Singapore. Any other questions?
Hello. My name is Debbie Sianturi. It's from Transparent Consulting. Let me tell you to all the writers here, we have a serious matter about connecting, people connecting. So I encourage you as a writer, if you meet with any Gen Z or any young people in nation or Southeast Asia, encourage them to write even in one paper what is on their mind. Stop guidance them. Let them tell what is on their mind. So then after that they can connecting each other. Oh, we understand about life is like this. This is what happened in our country. Because here in Indonesia, we have a serious matter about polarization. Not only about the religion, the ethnic, the gender. So please help the Indonesian, especially the Indonesian, yeah? But if you are from the Southeast Asia, please connecting each other. Okay, that's my message to you. Thank you.
I think if you hear stories from different parts of the world or even different countries, your mind is open to more perspective of life. Any of you would like to comment on that?
But as I mentioned before, that actually Makassar International Writers Festival always try to create a kind of space where all of these that's why I say that Makassar International Writers Festival, mostly the audience is actually young people. Now, more than 70% of the audience of MUWF is young people. And then not only that, but we create we try to create these spaces, inclusive spaces. So not only just like the generation between demography, but a lot of kind of communities. For example, we work with the disabilities communities, of course. Sometimes when we talk about this kind of things like literary scene, sometimes we forget to think about the struggle of these communities. Or for example, in a community very patriarchal in Makassar, for example, we try to create this space become more friendly to queer societies, for example. So we open some panel discussion programs special for them to involve in this festival, and also to respond the first question. Actually, we try even in finding this sponsor funding, because this is one of the main issues in this in doing this kind of thing. We always we now try to involve a lot of public to be the main sponsor of this festival. For example, when we invite 100 speakers, for example, for 4 days in Makassar, let's say we need 400 hotel room, right? When we find 100 people in Makassar to just want to involve in the festival with 500 rupiahs, we already crossed the problem of the hotels. So actually, for example, because we have a principle like a zero waste festival, so every food we serve for the volunteers and for the speakers, like in Indonesia we call it prasmanan, not nasi bungkus actually now. So it's made it easier for everyone to support this kind of, because if you have like 2 liters beras, and then you cook in your home, and then you bring just rice to the festival, you already help the festival to give a food to the volunteers, like 20 volunteers. Or you just bring like 100 ekor ikan, and then you already, so because the principle is zero waste, so we don't have like the brand of the brand of like warung, dan mereka tidak lagi bikin harus nasi bungkus, tapi kamu punya 100 ekor ayam, 100 ekor ikan gitu, kita bisa nelayan pun bisa terlibat di festival. So this kind of ways we try to make in Makassar International Writers Festival now. So because we don't want to bring this festival very dependent with the state. Like, of course we have like now Dana Indonesiana, right? For example, I talked Pauline this morning, because when for example when they want to invite me to her festival, just provide one invitation and poster where I will be a speaker, and then the invitation I propose to, we have now in Indonesia called Interaksi Budaya. So actually they can provide some money, so the artist can go to the event, like travel grant, even residencies like 3 months out there. So actually there are a lot of ways actually, but for the second response, actually For example, Azrik, I know Azrik is a good reader of Indonesian literature. I mean, it doesn't happen in Indonesian reader to read a lot of Malaysian writers, but they are read Indonesian writers like there's not something wrong with reading whoever. So sometimes Azrik like just WhatsApp me and text me and then siapa yang sekarang menurutmu bagus dibaca gitu. Dan okay.
So just to add on what An is saying, I think that when we do this kind of festival, sometimes it will be great also if we can move beyond regional themes, and because when we do a festival within a city, whether it's Jakarta, Georgetown, we tend to look at the broader picture. We tend to forget the more smaller aspect that connects everyone, which is the novel, poetry, theater. That's how I connected with An to poetry, because that is what we share, even though we are different region, different language. So sometimes I think it would be great in the future for us to also have micro festivals. For example, Poetry Literary Festival for Southeast Asia, where only poets can come and talk about much more niche topics that everyone can connect. Because I think those are the things that, I mean, literary arts form is something that everyone can relate, whether you're from Thailand, Vietnam, because everyone reads novel, everyone reads short stories, everyone reads poetry. That transcends, I think, regional themes, political agendas, and I think those are, because I think when we think about writers in this region, we tend to think in silos. If I'm a Malaysian writer, I just think as a Malaysian writer. If you're an Indonesian writer, you just think within your own literature, but we never think as a region, like as a Southeast Asian writer, because there's never a discussion as a canon or as a literary form, like Mas Anton was mentioning about Latin American. I think when you look at interviews, at discussion among Latin American writers, there's always a unified mindset. Okay, we're all coming from Cervantes, we're all coming from Marquez. There's always a connection of literary tradition, whereas here is kind of disconnected. Like, if you're Indonesia, you're only thinking of your literary tradition. If Malaysian, only Malaysian literary tradition. So we need to start thinking as a region as well, and that starts from our shared art form, and that I think it's good to have this kind of festival, because this will connect cities and so on, but we also need to focus on what really matters, which is our literary tradition.
Just want to add to Azrik. Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, I think, like the Latin American semangat of feeling there's a kind of unified literary sense. For sure, partly, yes, we don't have that shared language, and we don't have that shared colonial experience, for sure. But I think even some regions like Eastern Europe have that, and they have diverse languages and sort of shared but sometimes not shared history, somewhat similar to our region, but they do have, like the Balkans, they actually have a good sense of each other's literatures as well, and sometimes also literary festivals, we actually need to read each other before we talk, or maybe at least in tandem with the networking as well, and the curation. We really need to read each other's literatures, So in the end, of course, we are a region. We want to have this sort of perhaps strengthened regional identity, but it really it won't mean anything if we're not really reading each other and falling in love with each other's literatures as well.
Okay, thank you so much. It says there on the screen, time's up. Is that really... There's another question, but organizer, is that really, can we... Can we squeeze in another question, or that's it? When is the next session? Can we...
half an hour, right? Don't we?
Don't know. I don't know, the organizer, can we squeeze in another question, or that's... Okay, last
Rather
one.
pick.
Huh?
You can pick just one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just last one.
Yeah.
Last but not least, yeah.
Hello, I'm enjoying your talk. I mean, I met some of you, of course. Laura, hi, I'm Nasir Tamara. And you are a friend of Dan Feng, right? I'm a friend of Dan Feng too. I'm writers. My book has been published in ASEAN, in Singapore, Indonesia, of course, and Malaysia. So I feel I'm ASEAN citizen. And I just would like to contribute the role of independent bookseller. Just you know, in Yogyakarta, where I live now, independent booksellers are very active in helping the writers, you know, providing places for them to talk, to speak, and inviting journalists and influencers to write about your works. So I'm suggesting in this session, Road to Jakarta content, you should invite independent booksellers in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, because there are 3 countries present today. I have 3 bookstores, 2 in Jogja, now in Pasar Santa, not in the market, but just di belakang, behind market, called, you can Google it, called Nathan Bookstore, and I think it's viral. And the concept is giving the bookshop, creating a bookshop, you know, that have curated books. So I'm also with the Jogja Biennale art, I'm there. And in Biennale of art, we do some curating, but I believe books also need curating. And I believe if we work together, booksellers like I do, and you writers, and I'm also writers, we look to, we sit together and make a workshop. How do we do this into practice? Because I believe there are possibilities to strengthen the ASEAN literature by inviting not only publishers, but also independent booksellers. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Nasir. That's a good idea to invite the independent bookseller in the future. Okay, sorry. I'm a lousy moderator. I'm not supposed to. On behalf of Jakarta Content Week, we would like to thank all the speakers and participants for attending this session. We still have a lot of interesting sessions at JAKTENT. For more information on JAKTENT, follow us on IG at JAKTENT, and see you. Thank you so much, you guys.